want to take a moment here this morning and try to imagine the impossible. That's what I want to do. And the impossible task that I want us to consider is this. It's kind of an odd one, but go with me here. Imagine that you never heard the Christmas story before. It's hard, right? What does that even mean? But try to imagine it. Imagine you never heard that Mary and Joseph traveled from Nazareth to Bethlehem. Imagine you never heard that the inn was full. Imagine you never heard that Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger. Never a mention of a shepherd in a field, no wise men traveling from afar. This is hard to do. It's hard to wrap our minds around this, but there was a time. There was a time in each of our lives when this was true. And we hadn't heard the Christmas story. And I know because I have proof of it. I've proof of it, and it sits on my Christmas tree. It's been staring at me all of Advent. And I mean literally staring at me because it has eyes. It's this cute little teddy bear. It's an ornament for a Christmas tree, and it's this bear with a cute little Santa hat, and I think a dashing green bow tie. And he is holding a number 1, and there's some writing on it. It says, 1989, baby's first Christmas. And I also have this ornament that I also brought, which I think is equally as goofy, and maybe a little charming. It's supposed to be me as a baby. And it says, 1990, baby's second Christmas. You see, when my wife Kendra and I got married, our parents, they sent us off with a bunch of essential items. We were moving from New England to the Midwest. We got an old rickety metal farmhouse bed that's been passed down through my wife's family for generations. She claims that many Joyners started their life there and ended their life there. I do want to say that the mattress is new. It's the bed frame that's old. We also inherited my great-grandmother's dining room set. We have the odd pot or pan that our parents gave us. All the essentials, right? Bed, dining room table, stuff to cook food with. They're all accounted for. But of all the things my parents decided to send along, they also gave me these ornaments. My mom insisted that I have them, and I have to ask, why? Why? Why on top of beds and tables and chairs did I get these little knickknacks? I think it's because they represent something truly important and amazing. This silly bear it's a physical representation, a totem, a memento of the first time I ever heard the Christmas story proclaimed. Well, right now, I can't imagine or conceive of a time when I didn't know that God came to earth, was born to Mary on that Christmas all those centuries ago. This little guy proves that there was once a time when I heard this amazing story for the first time. And I wonder what I thought. I wonder if I was like the shepherds. The shepherds. I love the shepherds in the Christmas story. I feel like we don't talk about the shepherds enough. They have an amazing role to play. The shepherds were the first people in the entire world to hear that Jesus was born. The very first. We heard it just read in Luke's Gospel. Luke writes, Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. And then Luke continues the story that very same night. It continues. In that region there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and they were terrified. And here it is. This is it. This is the first time anyone in the world had heard the Christmas story. And of all people came from an angel, how fitting. The angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. For see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You'll find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." This Christmas, I want us to reclaim the awe and wonder that comes with hearing the Christmas story for the very first time. I mean, think about it. Think about what it's like to tell a young child, perhaps no older than 3 or 4, the Christmas story for the first time. I imagine many of you have done that. You know, a child may come to this day and he might ask us, "What is this day? What's it all about? Why the joy? Why the celebration?" And we might say to them, well, little one, this is the day that we tell the story of God coming down to earth to live with us. Think about what their reaction might be. Perhaps it would be like the shepherds. At first they might be afraid, right? God's coming here? What does God want? They might ask, is it going to be loud? Should I cover my ears? Will it be bright? Should I cover my eyes? And we'd say to them, there's no reason to be afraid. Our God is already born. Our God is a baby, wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger. And I like to imagine at that point, the little child gets a big grin across their face, and they crack a smile and they say, "You mean that God is a baby and wears diapers?" And we'd say, "Yeah, that's our God." And in that interaction, there's wonder and awe, trembling and laughter and joy, the full gamut of emotions. I mean, what a way to tell and to hear the Christmas story. I personally don't remember the first time I heard about the story of Christmas. I don't remember what my parents told me when I got this ornament as a baby, or even the story of this ornament a year later. I don't remember the pastor's sermon or what carols we sang. But on those first Christmases, I do remember this. For as far back as I can remember, in the haze that encircles our earliest childhood memories, I can remember an empty manger on Christmas Eve. And I remember how that empty manger sat in the creche on the mantle above the fireplace in our living room. And there it lay empty throughout all of Advent and most of Christmas Eve. The manger was still empty as we sat down to eat our Christmas meal. The manger was still empty as we put on our hats and our gloves and put on our coats to go to church. But when we returned, later that night, I remember going to that secret place where Jesus was tucked away and kept for all of Advent. I remember opening the desk drawer, a mix of fear and wonder, the weight of a great responsibility on my shoulders. And there, staring up at me, it's baby Jesus. His arms held wide, as if to embrace me and the whole universe in love. Scooping him up, ever so gently, I would take him, diapers and all, and walk over to the creche and place him in the manger. This memory, I couldn't have been very old, but I knew as only a child does, that what was happening in my little role in telling the story of the birth of Jesus was anything but ordinary. I trembled a little with the great task at hand. But I was also overjoyed to see God in the manger, just like the shepherds, a little mix of both. And on Christmas Day, I would wake up. There would be Jesus. I mean, for me, this distant memory is my first Christmas story. And on days like today, I want to reclaim that story for me, for all of us. I sometimes wonder if the Christmas story has become too ordinary, so familiar that the fear and awe of that first Christmas, or the first time we heard that God had come to earth, that's all disappeared. It's the weight of grown-up things on our shoulders has replaced the responsibility of gathering up Jesus in our arms. I know that for many recent Christmases now, I get home late on Christmas Eve. But I still perform my ritual of finding baby Jesus in that secret place, placing him in the manger. But I have to ask myself, is this just a perfunctory ritual? Do I still feel the wonder? Is there still the weight of a great responsibility that I felt as a child who longed to fill the empty space in the manger? The empty space in our lives with Jesus? To reclaim that first Christmas story is to be like the shepherds. The Messiah is born this day and every day in our hearts. And he's just on the other side of the field from our flocks. The Lord of Lords is close by, and that's what we celebrate on Christmas. So close that if we are quiet, you might even hear his faint newborn cries coming from the stable. To reclaim that first Christmas is to remind ourselves that God's presence, God's closeness, is not limited to a far away land and a far away time. It's to rediscover that God is still here in our lives, real, concrete, living, breathing. Not some distant Lord or detached judge, but a humble servant of love and grace who has come down to us this Christmas, a baby in diapers, a Prince of Peace to change the world.